Welcome to Bigfoot Society. If you have Bigfoot activity to report from the same areas discussed in this episode, please reach out to me directly after this episode. And if you'd like to be on the podcast to discuss a personal Bigfoot encounter, please reach out to me directly at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Do you wish there was more Bigfoot Society to listen to every week? Well, there is now. If you become a supporting member over at Patreon, you get a special members-only episode every single week on Wednesdays, and sometimes even more episodes. Head on over to patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. And now let's get on with the show. All right, Bigfoot Society, we've got the privilege of talking to Victoria tonight. Victoria is an individual that reached out to me through the Bigfoot Society email with some interesting things to share. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show tonight. Victoria, how's it going?
Real good. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to get into it. You told me a little bit beforehand, and I know a little bit about where we're going, so it'll be very interesting. But is there anything that the listeners need to know about yourself or the area that we'll be dealing with today where these encounters happened first?
I'm the type of person that seems to draw in all kinds of weird stuff, even paranormal. For some reason, it doesn't matter if I'm in a hotel room, if there's spirits there, they come out. It's just a bizarre life ever since I was, well, as far as I can remember. And my encounter, I'm about 17 miles south of Buffalo, New York, right along the shores of Lake Erie. And this happened in my hometown here.
Fantastic. That's exactly what we need to know. So we're looking at probably that area south of Buffalo, Erie County, all that good stuff. But Victoria, I'm going to have you go ahead and take us back to the first time that you started experiencing some weird things related to Bigfoot.
That's the night you never forget. I was earlier that day, I was out and about doing chores at the stores, looked down and told myself, make sure that you fill the gas tank up. And lo and behold, I forgot. And I pulled into my driveway that evening and I couldn't believe my vehicle was below empty. So I'm like, no big deal. I'll do it tomorrow. So I'm getting ready for bed and I get a phone call from a friend who lives in the next town over. And they said, hey, there's issues at the house. Somebody was drinking and they were out of control. And I'm like, why should I get involved in this? They'll listen to you. We need your help. And I'm like, it's like 11:30 at night and I'm all ready for bed. And this person felt they really needed me. So I got in the car, started driving down this rural road that very few houses were on, dimly lit, but there was like close to a full moon. So fields and the woods, they were a little bit lit up. So I'm driving down this rural road. And I'll tell you, it's between two interstates, Route 5 and Route 20. Okay. So anybody out there that may be from around the area, they know exactly what road I'm talking about. I was the only vehicle on the road that night on that spooky road. And I crossed over the tracks. And that's when I noticed, I looked down and went, I'm out of gas. What am I doing? All gas stations are closed. So that was the main concern. So I'm looking down at my gas gauge, and when I looked up, okay, a wood line ended, and then it was like a farmer's field, and it was cut down short, all the way down like grass. And to my left, I'm looking at this person coming out of the field that late at night, and I'm going, that's weird. But the weirder part is how huge this human being that I thought was a human being. And it stepped right out in front of my car where it was a standard shift. So I started downshifting because what I'm looking at, it made no sense because it was tall, massive shoulders and hair from head to toe. And I'm going, your brain can't comprehend what you're looking at because you're thinking it's a person in a costume, but they're massive. A massive size. And he walked right in front of the car. Now I'm probably creeping to 6 miles an hour. So I'm putting it in first gear. But then the reality of your brain can't comprehend what you're looking at And it's a monster now, not a human being. And I'll never forget how bad I was shaking and tried to drive a standard shift and have your foot on the clutch. So I had to throw the vehicle into neutral because I would have popped the clutch and probably couldn't restart the car because I had no stinking gas. And so this thing is kind of turns to a jaywalk across the road in front of me, but he turns and he looks at me because in my brain I'm going, this is deliberate. He knew a car was coming. Why would he choose? Is his intentions bad? So of course you're shaking so bad you can't control it. And I even thought about doing a 3-point turn in the road, but knew that I couldn't because I popped the clutch, because that's how bad your legs are shaking, your entire body. And at first, this is all happening in nanoseconds. This is all going through your brain, where it's going to stop. It's waiting for me because it deliberately stepped out in front of my vehicle. Its intentions got to be bad. And the size of him, all I could picture was him reaching under my car and flipping it over and grabbing me out. What a way to go, right? That's what I was thinking. What a horrible way to go. But the way he looked at me, and it was like eye contact, and I'm just now just crawling almost to a full stop. He looked at me as if, and I thought it was crazy until I started listening to like Dixie Cryptid Canada, Sasquatch Chronicles. And it now I understand. I know it sounds crazy, but it's happened to other people. It was a mind speak. I think it knew how scared I was. It looked at me, and I swear in my head I heard, I see you. This is the best way that I can explain it. It isn't exactly those words. It was just this knowing, but it didn't matter what it said to you. You were still scared half out of your wits. It said, I see you. You see me. And I don't care. It's something like that, but it still didn't make you feel better, right? Because, but if it's lying to you and it's going to wait. So it ended up walking into the field across the street, out in the open, didn't even try to hide because it could have went in the tree line, but it chose still to be exposed. And of course, I'm trying to put the car back in gear to continue on. And I wanted to make sure it was far enough in the other field where I felt safe to step on it and get out of dodge, so to speak. So that was a horrible experience, something I'll never forget. And so not too long after that, I was coming home late from work, and it was a heavy fog, really bad, dangerous. And this was on Route 5, and that's 4 lanes, to the point where you're crawling 6-7 miles an hour. And it's like all you're doing is focusing to the right, trying to see that white line, make sure that you're on the road. And you can only see 3 to 4 feet ahead of you in the thick fog. And again, I saw from the waist down, step in front of my car, 2 steps of massive, hairy body, bipedal, in front of my car. So I'm going, what's wrong with this town? What's going on? Because there's a lot more, and I don't know if we'll even get into it, but bizarre things. So I was sharing this story at work, and this was in the break room, and somebody brought up Bigfoot something, and I got credibility, okay, where I was employed. And I says, oh, I said, hey, because I never told anybody except family, my experience. And I felt comfortable enough in front of my coworkers to say, hey, I had one. And I went through it, and the whole room was silent. It's never silent in this break room. So when I was done, a coworker, nobody was talking. It was silent. And she goes, hey, Victoria, I believe every word you just said. She said, I know every police officer in town, and they all have had Bigfoot encounters on that particular road that runs between Route 5 and Route 20. So we have police officers here that have encountered these things as well. So I also wanted to share with you. So recently I was at a brunch at an ex-coworker's house. So we all got together, and it was a big long table. So there was three different conversations going on. And the one young woman who was in another conversation, she heard what I was speaking with another one, and she joined in and said, "Hey, what did you just say?" We were talking about dogmen, Bigfoot, whatever. And because their house is in the middle of a woods, it just very frightening area, if you ask me. But anyway, so we're sitting there, and she shared an experience that is just a quarter mile from my house. She said, and she's a school bus driver, and she said she was just awarded this brand new school bus run. So she didn't know the kids on the bus. And it was, I believe, her first day, and she's going down this one rural road, not the one that I had the experience on. This is another one closer to my house. And there's a beautiful field there, beautiful, surrounded by woods. It's about, I'm going to say 35 acres. It's all open. Usually you see it filled with deer in the morning, dusk to dawn, lots of deer. So many you can't even count them. Okay. I live in a heavily wooded area along the shores, like I said, of Lake Erie. So anyway, she's driving her bus, and she said the sun was coming up, so there was enough light, but still dark. And she says she looks in the field as she's driving her school bus down this road. It only has a few houses on this road. She looks and she sees a dead deer in the middle of the field. And she's looking at it because something is leaning over it, something massive. And she said she took her foot off the gas because she's going, "What was that?" And she goes, "I can see that it's a deer, but I couldn't make out the creature that was eating off of it." And so I'm all interested in this, right? Because it's like right around the corner from my house. And so I said, "What do you think it was?" She goes, "I thought it was a massive dog." And it's funny because we have a lot of coyote as well. And if there's a dead deer, it's going to be that group of coyote eating off of it, but no coyote, she said. She said it was hunched over where she thought it was a bear at first. And so she slowed her school bus down, she said, my brain couldn't comprehend what I was seeing, leaning over, eating on this deer. She said, and then it started to stand up a little bit. And she said it was the most scariest thing. So it's basically, we don't know if it was a Sasquatch or a dog man, because that's in Western New York as well. I mentioned to you, this was a few years ago. So this is what I've learned from listening to Sasquatch podcasts. But before I started listening to them, this only happened when my husband is out of town. Okay. I would hear chattering in the neighborhood. I live in a private neighborhood, and I'm surrounded by summer homes where there's nobody residing there during the winter. And so I'd be by myself, and I have a 2.5 car garage. It's set up, heated. I got my monitors, my computer. It's a great place to hang out. And so I would go from the house to the garage, and it's all private, this area, with a privacy fence. And like I said, I'm surrounded by summer homes. So it's quiet. You can hear a pin drop if there's no wind with the lake waves going. So this was a quiet night. And I came out through my mudroom door to go into the garage, and it's only 6 steps. And I heard talking, like 2 people talking. But it was so strange. No matter how hard I tried to focus, I couldn't make out a word they were saying. And I went, "Oh, that's weird." You'd think you'd hear at least one word. You've got your hands cupped behind your ears. You're focused. It was towards the path to the lake. I live across the street from the beach. And it was coming from that area. You never hear anybody. Nobody's out that late at night. It was about 11:30, maybe quarter to midnight. And I'm listening to this conversation in the still of the night. And I'm going, "Man, that's weird." But How nice. You're not alone in the world. That's what I thought, and brushed it off, and was in doing some computer work out here in the garage. And maybe a half hour later, so I went to go back in the house, maybe to use the bathroom or get a snack. And I stopped dead in my tracks because I still heard the talking, the conversation. And I went, wow, that's weird. It's so stinking cold. And who's up this late and still outside talking, right? And I'd stand there, and you're just focused. What the heck, man? How come I can't hear a word, make out a word they're saying? But I should be able to, because it sounded that crisp, but it sounded like murmuring, gibberish. So I go back in the house for a while and come back out, and I'm like, they're still talking. But the entire time I was out in my garage, I kept looking up at the window in my garage with that strong feeling of being watched. When you get that gut feeling, you're being watched. And I'm like, wow, man, that's strange. We never have any issues. So I'm thinking, man, there's no prowlers. Nobody gets away with anything in this neighborhood. Everybody watches. And I'd be on the computer, horrible feeling, and kept looking up at the window, which of course you can't see out. It's pitch black. And the property on the other side of the hedges that we have there, real high hedgerow, but now, mind you, it's like November, so no leaves on those hedges, and it's just an open lot, okay? There's no house there, and then you can see the beach from there. So I kept feeling that weird feeling, went back outside to go in the house. Once again, they were still talking, and everything inside said, go back, shut the garage down, shut everything down, something don't feel right. And I got a pit bull, okay? A protective pit bull. Do you know she wouldn't even come out with me to walk in the garage? I'd go, come on, let's go. She lifted up her eyes like, you're on your own. So that creeped me out because dogs know. And so I came, shut everything down. Now the next night, okay, husband's still out of town. I'm alone. And it's late, and I come out the house to go to the garage, and I hear somebody whistling. It was crisp, it was loud. Again, no wind, the waves on the beach aren't moving, so you can hear a pin drop in this neighborhood. And it was late again. And I'm listening to the whistling, and I couldn't make out the tune it was. And I go, okay, whoever it is, I guess that's their own thing. And come back out the garage, go into the house an hour later, and sure enough, whoever that was, I believed a person, was whistling, still whistling. I go, who does that? Nobody does that. Something ain't right. So now I'm freaked out, and I want to shut the garage down. Now I'm too scared to go back out, and I try to get the dog. I even pulled her collar and even told her, you want a snack? She never turned down. She wouldn't go with me. So I knew something was wrong. Still come out to the garage, shut it down. And I went back to the door into the house, and I'm standing there. I made sure I stood really close to the door handle. So because the whistling was it still was going on. And that was like, that ain't right. Something's not right here. So I had my hand on the doorknob while I'm standing there going, wait a minute, the whistling sounds different. And I'm really trying to focus my ears. And all of a sudden I stood up straight. I realized it was coming from the other side of my fence. Something was there, and it was watching me. And yeah, run in the house real fast, deadbolts, everything else. So I've had a lot of bizarre incidents. That's not the only one. I could keep going. I'm not going to do that because I've seen things that I know I shouldn't have seen, because I don't even know if I should go there. We didn't talk about this prior to.
Well, let's talk about the Bigfoot stuff first. How about that?
Yes. Okay.
That's some fascinating stuff, because if you look at a map, which I'm doing right now, you've got 5 and 20, and you've got the lake, but then on the other side, you've got that 90 interstate.
Yeah.
So it's to think that they're on the other side of the interstate in such like a relatively not big area because you've got the lake right there, but yet there's some wild stuff going on. If you've been saying that, yeah, every police officer in the town has had encounters on that road, that unnamed road as well.
Yeah, a friend's husband was saying he was on Route 5 and it was snowing out and it was dark. And he said that something ran in front of his vehicle. This is close to my house. He said he thought it was a big guy in a huge snowsuit. He goes, I think it was a Sasquatch. That's the way he was handling it. A guy in a big snowsuit. It's 4-lane, and he said it crossed really fast.
I have a few questions about your initial road crossing sighting that you had. What year was that again?
That was in the late 80s.
Okay.
And then and other things have happened in between. Like I said, I got quite a few stories, but some of them are just like the one is really bizarre. I always wonder because I know that they know what I saw. They know where I live, and it has something to do with the government. Something
gotcha.
I saw that I shouldn't have seen, like a portal type of thing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. With the blacked out windows, they're big SUVs. And I just happened to be there and seen it. And that was the only vehicle. So I'm like, I got my license plate because what I saw, it freaked me out so bad. And I went, I just saw something I wasn't supposed to. I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time once again.
My goodness. Yeah. You have had some really interesting stuff happen, but about the 80s, the 1980s Bigfoot sighting, do you remember what color that it was?
It was brown.
Okay.
Yeah, he was brown, maybe the reddish brown, but the hair wasn't super long because this was the summer months. So who knows, maybe they're like regular critters. Depends on where they are, where they're going to shed. It wasn't super long, maybe under his like armpits, like behind his arms. It was shaggy. I'm telling you, when you see it in your eye, your brain can't comprehend it because Bigfoot, like I said, didn't come to mind until afterwards. Because remember, that was only in the Pacific Northwest. Things like that. You would hear these stories. And I even looked down. I saw him from head to toe. And yes, the big feet, hair, over the ankles. But the eyes, I can't tell you. I don't know how much I saw because it was so shocking that I believe that out of shock that I couldn't remember the details because you thought you were going to die. You actually thought you were going to die in such a horrible way.
How many steps did it take to cross the road?
No, I don't know if he was playing with me or what. He came straight out and then he jaywalked, which caused him to stay in the road longer. And that's why I was wondering, is he just trying to get up a little ahead of my vehicle to turn around and wait for me to roll? Because like I said, I was coasting. I was practically crawling with the vehicle in neutral. So I didn't pop the clutch and have the car shut off, and I wouldn't be able to restart it because I was below E. I was, crazy, just absolutely crazy. No, so he stayed in there. He took his time.
Okay, so he's just hanging out. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, he wasn't in a hurry. It's like he was so relaxed. There were no other cars coming behind me or from Route 20 towards my way because I was heading towards the 90 that you saw on the map. But I was going to make a left onto Route 20 to go to that friend's house, which they did have gas to put in my tank. So I made it home. And no, I did not take that same road home.
I bet you probably didn't take that one for a while.
No, absolutely not. I don't think I would do it alone at night because that's when the activity, there is a house, one of the homes there, a really nice home, and it's newer, and they are, newer, I'm going to say, I don't know, 10 years. They're back in the woods on that road, okay? And they admitted that they see it all the time because it traverses the creek that runs alongside their house. See, anybody that's from this area will know exactly where I'm talking about. And like I said, I don't care. I don't care. They see it all the time. And in the winter, after heavy snowfall, which nobody could walk alongside that creek, I've driven down that road in the daytime where you can see that somebody was walking along that creek. But if it was a human being, it would be a leg drag because the snow would be 3-4 feet along that creek. And so there's a family there that said, oh, yeah, no, we see it all the time. And we just ignore it. It's just, he just cuts through. I wish I could be that casual. But what can you do?
How did that conversation come up? Did you just randomly go up to their house, or you knew these people from somewhere else?
No, I would hate to say how.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Okay. So you mentioned already that you didn't get to see the eyes, but did you notice any other parts of the face when it was in front of you in the road?
Oh, it had a conical head.
Okay.
There's no doubt. It had that, and it looked, but you get to a certain point in fear where you want to turn your head. If I'm not looking, he knows I'm not a witness. And you know what I'm saying? You get that feeling, but I didn't turn my head. I didn't turn my head because I was in a state of shock and hoping that it was like a horror movie. I thought for sure I was going to run completely out of gas, and that's how he was going to get me, wait for me and flip my car. That's how big it was. I'm like, me in this small little car and the size of him, I'm puny. And so was my vehicle.
Sure.
When you see the size of his chest, his shoulders, but he had long, slim legs, like a slimmer. That I remember. He was in really good shape. You know what I'm saying? Super long legs.
Okay. So
and a massive chest, upper body, muscular thighs, but still the length of them made him look nice and slender type of look.
Okay, definitely from what you could tell, you were looking at, it was a male. You've mentioned or referred to it as he multiple times.
You know what? Honestly, I didn't see.
Okay.
I picked up on it that it was male. I know it's
Gotcha.
rude, but maybe I did see it. Like I said, you're in such a shock. I believe that, like, it's buried. It's like certain details are buried.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I say him all the way to the end. It was a him.
The shoulders, how long or how wide would you estimate the shoulders were that you saw?
Yeah, because when he turned his head, he moved the whole upper part of his body. It wasn't just his head turned. He stepped out into the road. First of all, I watched him walk through the field. That's what made me take my foot off the gas. Why is this person in this field this late at night? Are they honestly going to walk out in front of me? So I think it was his first step, which was a big step. He did one step in front of the vehicle, and he turned his body, like his whole upper body turned to me in almost like a nod. I know it's so weird, but hey, I see you, you see me. And I'm in my head, I couldn't comprehend why this was going through my head until after I just started listening to Bigfoot podcasts the past few years. And that's when I put 2 and 2 together with the voices that I was hearing, the whistling I was hearing. I never would have thought it was a Bigfoot until I heard other people's testimonies and what they experienced the same thing. This is exactly what happened to me. And people saying, yeah, you can't make out anything that they're saying, but they sound human. And so I go, it had to be that, because also what I've learned listening to these shows with people with multiple experiences is that once you have a sighting, they can't explain it. They know where you live. Have you heard that before? There's like a built-in GPS. You have a connection like for a lifetime, that they know where you're at.
I will say that I do know what you mean. Most people
You know,
will say that they have a sighting and then stuff follows them home, or there's a hitchhiker effect. And yeah, I've
yeah.
definitely heard
Mhm.
about that. And that can show itself in that there's blatantly Bigfoot activity around the home, or that there can also start to be other paranormal stuff that happens around the home too. It's very strange how it all seems to be connected in a weird way.
Uh, you're not kidding. Listen, while I was in the garage, I had two chihuahuas. Okay, and they'd like to come out in the garage with me. And this was probably 6 years ago. And there's a corner of my garage. Okay, like I said, it's 2.5. So it's a nice size. There's no vehicles in here, just the fridge, like a kitchen. It's heated, it's got everything. Okay. But there's one corner of the garage. When we bought this house, there was bizarre things happening, and then it quieted down. But there was a corner of the garage that was always creepy. You had this bad feeling. And let me tell you right now, there's three little lights in that corner because I was told by this, oh my gosh, I just love her. This Black woman from Mississippi. I told her some of the stories that happened in the house. And she goes, girl, let me tell you something. You need light in every room, little night lights, never be in a completely black, dark room because whatever is here will come out. I believe her. And I'm telling you, for years now, I've had lights in every room because of what was happening in this house after we bought it. Whatever, it wasn't too happy that we were here making changes. But there's something, and I'm pointing to it right now, the corner of the garage, which is lit at night, where you would feel something coming out. And I'm telling you, those chihuahuas would run to that corner with their hair up, gums, teeth showing, barking, then backing up like something's walking to it, like teasing them back and forth to the point where you go, I'm out. You get up, and I would walk out and call the dogs, and you couldn't call those dogs off of that corner. So something was happening in the corner of that room. But I'm telling you, people, if you're having any issues seeing shadow men in your house, make sure that there is a light in every room, little night light. Never have the darkness, because we all know that expression that at its evil grows in the dark. Yeah, I've had many bizarre incidents throughout my entire life. And I think I've mentioned, if I even go into a hotel room, it doesn't matter what state it's in, San Diego, Louisiana, oh, and even local here, there's a town, Dunkirk, with the hotel people. If anyone's out there, the hotel on the lake, there's a marina. And I spent the night there with my daughter. She had an exam, a school out there. Yeah, I was going to mention the name of that school, but never mind. Anyway, what awful, just awful, the experiences in hotel rooms, to the point where that time I told the manager, I said, hey, we had an incident in a room and her eyes were real big. And I said, listen, I don't know if you believe in spirits, ghosts. She goes, immediately, this manager goes, what happened? And I went, oh, okay. And I told her, and she goes, okay, you're not the only one on the third floor. We've been offering discounts. We're apologizing. And I'm going, oh my gosh, because you're thinking that someone's going to roll their eyes. The manager, I wasn't there looking for a discount. She needed to hear the experience my daughter and I had in that hotel room, and then she shared what other people, see, there's a college, SUNY College in Fredonia. That's the Dunkirk, right along the lake, Dunkirk, Fredonia. There's a university, and something was going on at the university, she said, where they had to rent, all the rooms were taken that night. She said, but there's one room in particular on the first floor that we never, ever rent out. She says, because the cleaning ladies can't even go in there. That's whatever is in there is violent, she said. And she says, we were filled to our capacity and we had to rent that room out, and all hell broke loose throughout the hotel with spiritual activity. And it figures I would be there that night. That was bizarre. That was something out of a horror movie. But like I said, just all these weird things. There was a show where we could talk about the paranormal. I got a show for you.
Oh, for sure. So it was like So you weren't staying in the super crazy room, but your room sounds like was affected by just the fact that the other one was stayed in.
Uh-huh. Oh, it was bad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was bad. My daughter's bed moving like The Exorcist.
Okay. Yeah.
And horrible foul smells, like a lightning bolt, the room lighting up, me and her screaming. And where I had her hold the door open, I said, wow, I never checked under the beds. Obviously, someone's under it, but it was encased, how they do that with the wood.
Yeah.
So I checked under there, and still I'm going, did somebody, were they able to remove the wood, hide in there and put the wood back? But then I go, okay, there's one room next to us and then the stairwell. Okay. So maybe I'm thinking, I didn't know the hotel was filled to its capacity. I didn't know there was something going on at the university. So I'm thinking it was like employees messing with us in the room on the other side, where there was a hole in the wall where they took a broomstick. So I forced my fingers behind our headboards and pulled. No hole, no opening, no nothing. And then, like I said, oh, and this is the funny part. Okay. So that manager says we're not allowed to rent it. And we did that night. We have regrets, blah, blah, blah. And so my daughter, a few months later, and she had another exam at this school. So I said, hey, do you want to get a room in that hotel? She goes, yeah, because we had so much fun going out to eat and mom and daughter experience. And the reason why I picked a hotel room is because the school is so far from my house where I live, where you would have to get up at 3:30 in the morning or something to get ready and get her there by like 6:37. So that's why we got the hotel room, because it's closer to that school. She goes, yeah, let's not get that room. I said, but hey, just be quiet. I said, I'm going to ask. And it was different people working at the desk. I asked, and I think room number, yikes, is 326. And if anybody's listening out there that's familiar with the hotel, it's where the stairwell faces a Tim Hortons coffee shop, okay? In case they ever want to get the room. So we go in, different people working at the desk. This is our second time there. And so I said, hey, we've been here before. And I says, I may have the room number wrong. I said, is room 326 open? Not that I would have taken it, trust me. Okay.
Right.
And she goes, oh, let me see. And she's typing, and I'm watching her face, me and my daughter, and she stops typing and her face falls. And she looks at me funny. I go, what's the matter? I said, does it say it has spirits in there? She goes, oh, how did you know? And I said, because we stayed there. No, I don't want the room, but I just wanted to see if they put that in the computer, and they did.
Wow. That's incredible. Man.
Yeah. Yeah. So if anybody wants to have a spooky night, a possible spooky night, 3rd floor, second from the last, facing Tim Hortons. And it wasn't a good night. It wasn't a good night at all.
Wow. That's wild. I want to maybe get back to Bigfoot for a little bit. Have you ever talked to your neighbors around where you're at to see if they've experienced things as well?
Like I said, the houses around me were summer homes.
Okay.
And I don't really socialize. I keep to myself, even though very friendly, had conversations. But no, but I bet you there's got to be somebody, because we're surrounded by woods.
Okay.
Heavily treed area.
Gotcha.
Somebody had to see something, or possibly in denial until they can speak with someone that had an experience and go, hey, you know what? I did see something that wasn't right. Because I'm telling you, this whole area, there's activity, and they don't migrate. I don't know if it's one or is it a family, because if they're seen, it's always one. It's alone.
Okay, that's interesting. So is it usually a larger male, or you're saying it's never, or I guess are there ever smaller ones that are spotted, or?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
One of these days, when I get the opportunity, I am going to ask one of the police officers. I have to, because, and maybe they have a nice story. Like, yeah, we know where they live, but we're not allowed to talk about it. And if that ever happens, I'll share the story.
Hey,
I'll
maybe
share it with.
here's a fun little experiment for entertainment purposes only. What if everyone listening contacted their local police department and asked if they had any Bigfoot sightings reported, or if they have a file with Bigfoot related things in it? And if you do, reach out to me. Wouldn't that be cool?
I would say show up in person, because you get a call like that and you're like, am I being recorded? Am I on a show? Am I going to get in trouble? I would say if you're friendly with some of them, or I would just go in and say, hey, listen up.
So I'll tell you this, it's depending on how you are over the phone as well, because I've done this before, and I'm giving a little bit of secrets out of the bag, but I've done this before with, let's say there's a place down Tennessee, I called a station, and the guy that I got transferred to, he had actually had a sighting himself when he was going around on patrol one day, and I was able to talk to him off record about his sighting, which was incredible. You really never know unless you try, right?
Exactly. That's how I feel. It never hurts to ask or try. You got nothing to lose.
Yeah, you're not gonna get in trouble for it as long as you're nice about it. And if they say they don't have anything, then just say, hey, thank you, have a great day.
Yeah, because I've heard podcasts with state police, sheriffs, sharing their experiences, actually seeing one that's cloaked and how it was moving around. And yeah, they all got stories.
Oh, I know it. Yeah. And I know for 100% that there are sheriffs and police officers listening, because I've heard about them reaching out to other people. And then I know for 100% that park rangers are talking, because they reach out to me, but then they never, it's almost like they're afraid to follow through when I ask them more questions. So if you guys do want to talk, or gals, you're welcome to definitely reach out. I will listen, and it can be off record too. But so Victoria, have there been any other out of the ordinary things that have happened in this area? It sounds like it's a really weird area.
Yeah, you know what? I was watching YouTube, and you know how they'll give you suggestions. And this was, I don't know, about 6 months ago. I went, oh, wow. I said, so if anybody wants to go on YouTube, it's called The Man Beast of Western New York.
Yes.
And
yes.
Have you seen it?
I've interviewed one of the gentlemen involved with that, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, okay. There's some Native Americans giving testimony, what they think it is, their experiences. And if you watch that, The Man Beast of Western New York, you get to see the area that it is. It's heavily wooded. And then the Allegheny Mountains State Park, lots of activity there. And in fact, they bring it up. They bring it up in this little, The Man Beast of Western New York, that the campers there on the Red House area, people camping are calling the parks police, because there's quite a few sightings in that beautiful park, which I always go to. I just absolutely love it there. And not too far from Pennsylvania, the Allegheny Mountains there, which they have an awful lot of sightings as well.
They really do.
Interesting. Very interesting. So that's probably about it, unless you have, like I said, the other bizarre things. I don't know if I'm ready to talk about them, because it's that bizarre.
Oh, I totally get it. Yeah, no problem. But Victoria, it was a pleasure having you on the show, and thank you for sharing about your Bigfoot encounters and some other things that happened over the years in this area. And I'm sure other people have had things happen, and I would welcome them to reach out. The best way to reach out is to email me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. You're welcome to put it in the comments, but things get lost in there. Sometimes they get erased by algorithms, And I would recommend you reach out directly to me through email, please. But Victoria, a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for sharing what happened to you.
It was awesome. Thank you.
Here at Bigfoot Society, our goal is to provide a platform for those that have encountered Bigfoot to share their encounter in a safe and respected environment. But we need to hear your story. If you've experienced something that you just can't explain, please send me an email at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Then we can start the conversation. And I know a lot of you have not shared your encounter at all. It's been 20 years, and it's time that you get this off your chest, and then you can get some well-deserved rest, because I know you haven't been sleeping. I understand what you're going through, and I appreciate every one of you listening.
Bigfoot Society podcast, hosted by our captain, Jeremiah Byron, where it's all Bigfoot all the time. Have you ever had the urge to do more, to be more? Now you can by joining Bigfoot Society on the Patreon. Get ad-free episodes and even member-only episodes. Take part in movie night and even live video chats. Interact behind the scenes with Jeremiah and other Patreon members like me, Slaya. The powerful podcast goes on, and you may contribute a verse in our Patreon community. Carpe diem. Seize the day, Bigfooters, and make your lives extraordinary.
Please take a minute to help out the show by subscribing on YouTube, making sure you hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications, and share the episode on YouTube with a friend. Also, if you're listening to us on a podcast, thank you so much. Make sure that you're subscribed, share the show with a friend. Really, it's all about sharing the show wherever you can. If you've had a Bigfoot encounter related to the following or know someone who has, please reach out to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com or pass on my email. Here's the list. These are all in Oregon, by the way. Oak Ridge, Dexter, Fall Creek, Deschutes National Forest area, Cultus Lake, Spirit Lake, Subtle Lake, McKenzie River area, Sweet Home area, the area west of Crater Lake, east of 230 West Diamond Lake Highway, and north of 62 Crater Lake Highway. You can use email bigfootsociety@gmail.com. A special thank you to all the Bigfoot Society Patreon and YouTube channel members. It's your support that helps keep the show going, and I extremely appreciate it. If you want to join in the fun, you can join over at patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. I'll see you there. And again, thanks for listening.